Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin.
Before the beginning as we know it, there was a silence so complete that even the idea of silence had not yet been born. Imagine an ocean without waves, without water, without even the shore to define its edges. This ocean was not dark because there was no light yet to contrast it, and it was not still because stillness requires the memory of motion. It was a canvas of pure potential, a stage waiting for the first whisper of a play that would never end. Scientists call this state the singularity, a point of unimaginable density where everything that would become the universe was compressed into something smaller than a grain of sand. But those are words we use now, from within time, and before the Big Bang, there was no time to measure, no space to stretch. There was only possibility, curled like a sleeping seed in the soil of nothingness. Now imagine floating in that seed, before roots, before branches, before the rain. It was neither hot nor cold, because heat did not yet exist. It was neither near nor far, because distance had no meaning. Some physicists suggest that all the laws we live by, gravity, light, motion, were written there, packed tight in that impossible point, like a poem sealed inside an unopened letter. Others say that the very idea of before is flawed, because time itself was born with the Big Bang. To ask what came first is like asking what lies north of the North Pole. Yet still, the question persists, because our minds cannot help but search for a beginning. We look at rivers and wonder about the spring, we look at stars and wonder about their first spark, and so we look at the universe itself and ask, what breathed the breath that began it all? Let's drift into the thoughts of those who have tried to answer. Some picture a quantum foam, a restless nothing filled with jittering fluctuations, tiny sparks that flicker in and out like fireflies on a moonless night. This foam, though empty, was never truly void. It was alive with chance, a bubbling cauldron where something could emerge. And perhaps in one of those fluctuations, the universe found its opening, as if a crack appeared in the shell of possibility and light spilled out. In this telling, the Big Bang was not a beginning from absolute nothing, but a transformation, a moment when the balance tipped and the seeds sprouted. We can almost imagine that shift, though it is beyond our senses, the swelling of energy, the sudden release, like the first note of a song that had been waiting in silence. Others wonder if our universe is only one of many, a bubble among countless bubbles, each born in its own quiet eruption. In this vision, the before might not be a void at all, but an endless froth of creations, each carrying its own laws, its own measure of time, its own destiny. If so, then the question of what came first stretches far beyond our reach, like trying to trace the first wave in an infinite sea. But even if the multiverse is real, even if there are countless beginnings scattered like stars in a field, we still return to the same wonder. Why is there something at all instead of nothing? Now picture yourself sitting at the edge of this mystery. You can almost feel the weight of nothingness pressing softly against you, like a blanket without color or warmth. It does not frighten you because it is too quiet to be threatening. It is simply there, or perhaps not even there, because there implies a place. It is the pause before the inhale, the hush before the first note of a lullaby, and then, in one unimaginable instant, it shifted. The singularity expanded, time unfolded, and space bloomed outward like petals opening to the morning sun. Everything we have ever known, every tree, every ocean, Every planet, every thought was carried in that bloom, contained in that first blossoming breath. As we drift deeper into this thought, we realize the paradox. To imagine what came before is to stretch our minds beyond the very fabric that allows us to imagine. Our words are bound to time, to beginnings and endings, to cause and effect. But the singularity was outside of these bonds. It did not exist in the way we use the word exist. It was the possibility of existence, the seed of every star, the quiet ocean that held the memory of light yet to come. And as scientists, poets, and dreamers lean over its edge, we are reminded that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, but to be held gently like a fragile shell in the palm of the hand. The silence before the Big Bang is one of those mysteries, and in its silence, we can hear the softest whisper of wonder. Now let us drift deeper past the first spark, into the unfolding fabric of thought that science weaves about beginnings. The singularity blossomed, but what does it mean to say that something blossomed when there was no soil, no air, no sunlight to hold it? To help our minds, we borrow metaphors from the world we know. We imagine a flower because a flower is gentle and familiar, and in its opening we sense something similar to expansion. Yet what came with that expansion was not petals or fragrance, but space itself stretching, time itself awakening, energy itself rushing outward in a torrent too vast to imagine. Within a fraction of a second, smaller than the blink of a star's eye, the universe swelled from that hidden seed to something large enough to cradle galaxies. It was not light yet, not stars or atoms, but pure energy, searing and radiant, surging through the silence that was no longer silent. Scientists call those earliest moments cosmic inflation. Picture a balloon inflating at a pace that seems impossible, so fast that it outruns our language. It is a moment when every particle, every bit of energy that would ever become suns, moons, and rivers was scattered outward in a dance too quick to see. Some say it was smoother than glass, a uniform field with only the slightest ripples, like tiny wrinkles in silk. Those wrinkles, delicate as they were, would one day become the seeds of galaxies, the threads from which stars would spin. Without them, the universe might have stayed smooth forever, a silent sea with no islands of matter, no gathering of worlds. In those ripples we can almost feel the promise of everything, the curl of a spiral galaxy, the flicker of a candle's flame, the rhythm of a heartbeat, all waiting quietly to take shape. Now imagine the universe not as empty blackness, but as a glowing mist, dense and hot beyond comprehension. It pulsed with photons, particles of light, but those photons could not yet travel freely. The space was too thick, like fog so heavy that light could not move more than a fraction of an inch before being scattered. This was a universe without stars, without planets, only a vast ocean of plasma, restless and humming with potential. Slowly, gently, it cooled. Over hundreds of thousands of years, the particles began to settle, electrons pairing with protons, forming the first atoms of hydrogen and helium. With that union, the fog began to clear. Light, for the first time, was free to roam. That light still lingers, stretched across the sky, what we now call the cosmic microwave background. It is the universe's first whisper preserved, a faint glow that speaks of the dawn. Yet as we listen to that whisper, we are reminded of our original question: what came before? Did something stir this expansion, or was expansion itself the first stir? Some scientists suggest that the universe may have always been, in one form or another, and that what we call the Big Bang was merely a transition, a doorway opening from one state to the next. Others propose that quantum mechanics holds the key, that the universe sprang from a vacuum fluctuation, the restless nothing that cannot stay empty. In this telling, The vacuum is never truly void. It shimmers with possibility, and from that shimmer, existence blooms. Still others imagine cycles where universes expand, collapse, and expand again, like the breathing of a giant we cannot see. In their rhythm, there is no ultimate beginning, only endless renewal, like waves rolling onto a shore that has no end. The poetry of these ideas lies not in their certainty, but in their openness. We cannot step into that before to measure it. We cannot rewind time to a point when time itself was unborn. And yet, we can let our minds wander there, guided by the soft glow of equations, the faint echoes of radiation, the dreams of those who look at the night sky and see more than stars. In the stillness of thought, you can almost feel the paradox, that nothing might be full, that emptiness might shimmer, that silence might hum with unseen music. This paradox does not disturb the calm, it deepens it, reminding us that not all mysteries are meant to be untangled. Some are meant to cradle us, gently, like the universe itself cradles the galaxies within its arms. As you linger with these reflections, notice how the question changes. It is no longer only what came before, but also why does there need to be a before? Perhaps beginnings are only stories we tell because we live in time, moving from morning to evening, from birth to breath to silence. For us, there is always a first step, always a cause, always something to look back toward. But the universe may not share our habits. It may not need a beginning at all. Instead, it may simply be timeless, boundaryless, like the ocean we imagined, stretching without shore. And in that realization, we find a strange comfort, that our curiosity is itself part of the story, a spark of the same universe asking about its own origin, wondering at its own reflection, dreaming itself into words. Now we drift toward the closing of this first story, to the edge where mystery and meaning intertwine. We have followed the silence before the Big Bang into the first pulse of expansion, into the glowing mist where light was born, into the whispers of cycles and quantum chants. And yet, as softly as we try to hold it, the question remains open, like a horizon we can see but never touch. Perhaps that is the true gift of wondering what came before, not the answer itself, but the space it opens in our minds, a space wide enough to hold awe. For in asking, we remind ourselves that the universe is not a puzzle to be solved once and for all, but a song to be listened to slowly over lifetimes, each verse echoing differently in the heart. Think for a moment of water. A river flows, and we search for its source in a spring. That spring gathers from rains, which gathered from clouds, which gathered from oceans, which themselves are fed by rivers. Every source leads to another until we circle back where we began. The universe too may be like this cycle, without a single first drop, but with endless flow. What we call the Big Bang may be only one turn of the wheel, one chapter in a book with no first page and no final page. Some theories suggest an eternal inflation, where universes bud off from one another like blossoms from a tree that never withers. Each bloom carries its own laws, its own time, its own symphony of stars. If this is so, then our universe is both singular and ordinary, singular in its beauty to us, ordinary in the endless garden of creation. To hold that thought is to feel both humbled and uplifted, as if gazing at a night sky full of stars and realizing each one might be a sun with worlds circling, with oceans, with winds, with eyes looking back. And yet, even if there are countless universes, each with its own dawn, we are here in this one. That truth is tender and precious. Out of the silence came light, out of the light came matter, out of matter came stars, out of stars came life, and out of life came thought. We are the breath of that beginning still unfolding, in our very ability to wonder about before the story of the universe continues. Our curiosity is not apart from the cosmos, it is the cosmos reflecting on itself. The neurons that spark in your mind when you ask what came before are themselves tiny echoes of the same energy that once surged outward at the birth of time. You are a child of that silence, carrying its memory, carrying its music. Now let us imagine that silence once more, not as a void, but as a presence. Close your eyes and picture a vast ocean without edges. It has no waves, but it holds the possibility of every wave. It has no light, but it contains the promise of every star. It has no sound, but within it lies the potential of every song. That ocean is not gone, it lingers beneath everything. Scientists call it quantum vacuum, or singularity, or multiverse, but the name is less important than the feeling it evokes. It is the hum beneath the melody, the stillness beneath the motion, the canvas on which every star has been painted. Perhaps we do not need to solve what came before. Perhaps it is enough to sit quietly with it, letting its vastness remind us that existence itself is a wonder too deep to fully speak. As this story closes, feel how the silence before the Big Bang still touches you. It is not a distant past, but a living presence. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, every flicker of thought is tied to that first unfolding. In your veins runs the memory of starlight. In your bones lingers the dust of ancient suns. In your questions burns the same spark that once ignited the cosmos. The silence before the beginning is not gone. It is here, woven into you, into every tree, into every drop of water, into every glimmer of sky. And so, the answer to what came before may not be written in equations alone, but in the quiet acceptance that before and after, beginning and end, are human words trying to touch something larger. What lies beyond them is a lullaby of possibility, gentle and endless, a hush that still whispers to us through the night sky. Before clocks, before hours, before even the tick of a second, there was a universe without time. To imagine it, you must let go of the rhythm that guides your every day, the sunrise and the sunset, the beat of your heart, the slow turning of the earth. In that beginning, there was no beginning in the sense we know. There was no before to step from, no after to step into. It was a realm without direction, like a still pond without ripples, like a dream where everything is present all at once. Scientists say that time itself was born with the Big Bang, that when the singularity expanded, it carried with it not just matter and energy, but the very fabric of before and after. But what does it mean for time to be born? Can we picture the birth of something that allows us to picture everything else? We live so deeply within time that stepping outside of it feels impossible. Every breath we take carries us forward. Every memory reminds us of what has passed. Yet physics invites us to imagine a reality where time was not yet flowing. Some compare it to a frozen landscape where every moment exists but none move. Others suggest it was not frozen at all, but undefined, like a sentence waiting for its first word. If we lean gently into this idea, we can almost sense it. The silence of a story before the first syllable, the pause in music before the first note. Time was not ticking then. It was curled inside the singularity, waiting to stretch, waiting to unfold like a river breaking through its source. As the Big Bang expanded, time began to flow alongside space. They are partners woven into what scientists call spacetime. It is not that space existed first and then time entered. They were born together, inseparable, like twins bound by the same breath. The stretching of space allowed time to move, and the movement of time allowed space to change. This unity is at the heart of Einstein's vision, where gravity bends not just space, but the flow of time itself. Imagine placing a heavy ball on a trampoline, watching the fabric curve around it. That is how matter shapes space-time, and with it, how time itself flows differently in different places. The closer you are to a massive star, the slower time passes. The farther you are from gravity's embrace, the quicker the seconds slip by. Time is not a universal drumbeat, it is elastic, shaped by the cosmos itself. Now consider the deep implication. If time was born at the Big Bang, then asking what came before may not have meaning. Without time, there is no before to stand in. The very question dissolves, like trying to sail past the edge of the sea. Some physicists compare it to asking what lies south of the South Pole. The pole is the limit of direction. There is nothing beyond it. In the same way, the Big Bang may be the limit of time's direction. There is no before because there was no time for a before to exist. Yet, even as we accept this, our minds keep reaching. We are beings of time, built of memory and expectation. We cannot help but wonder, because for us, there is always a yesterday behind the today. Think of time as a thread. Each moment is a bead strung along it, glimmering in the light of experience. But in the universe before time's birth, there was no thread, no beads, no sequence to arrange. It was like a loom waiting for its first strand, like a page waiting for its first word. And then in an instant we can scarcely grasp, the loom was filled, the page began to write itself, and time streamed forth. From that flow, galaxies spun, stars ignited, planets turned, and life arose. And within that same river, you now sit, wondering at its beginning. You are not apart from it. You are the thread woven into the pattern. To reflect on the birth of time is to reflect on the stage that makes reflection possible. It is to look into a mirror and see the river behind your eyes. Let us drift deeper now into the strange waters where physics and wonder meet, where time is no longer a steady stream but a mystery of currents and eddies. We know time not as an idea but as a constant presence in our lives. The sun rises, the leaves fall, the seasons turn, and we carry the marks of time upon our skin and in our memories. Yet the more science studies it, the more time resists definition. Einstein showed us that time is not fixed, that it bends and stretches with gravity and speed. An astronaut orbiting close to a black hole may experience only hours, while centuries pass for those far away. Time, then, is not a clock in the sky ticking for all equally. It is woven into the universe's very fabric, shifting with its curves. But what does it mean that once there was no time at all? What does it mean that this fabric itself had to be born? Some theories describe the earliest universe as timeless, a quantum haze where probabilities existed but sequence did not. In that haze, events did not follow one another because there was no before and after. Instead, everything was suspended, like seeds floating in still air. The moment the Big Bang began, those seeds found soil. Cause and effect emerged, one thing leading to another, and the river of time began to flow. You can almost picture it, the sudden release of a dam, water rushing outward, carving valleys where there had only been silence. This flowing of time is what allows us to remember, to expect, to live. Without it, nothing could change. Without time, even the stars would not know how to ignite. Philosophers have long wrestled with this paradox. Saint Augustine once said, "What then is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I wish to explain it to him who asks, I do not know." That confession still holds today. We feel time as intimately as breath, yet when we try to grasp it, it slips away like sand through fingers. Modern physics adds its own paradoxes. Some models of the universe suggest that time is not fundamental, but emergent, like temperature or pressure. Just as heat arises from the motion of molecules, time may arise from the entanglement of quantum states. In this view, time is not the foundation of the cosmos, but a feature that appears as the cosmos becomes complex. This is not easy to imagine, but it carries a soft beauty. Time as a child of the universe, born not at the edge of everything, but within the unfolding dance of its parts. Now imagine stepping outside time's flow. Imagine being in a place where everything happens at once, where your first step and your last breath, the birth of stars and their collapse, the sprouting of trees and the falling of their leaves all exist together. It is dizzying to think of, yet some theories suggest that the universe may look this way from outside. What we call past, present, and future might all coexist, like pages in a book already written. We read one line at a time, but the whole story rests complete. If that is so, then the birth of time was not the creation of a river, but the beginning of our ability to walk along its bank, reading one page after another, never seeing the whole all at once. Our consciousness is the traveler, time is the path it walks. There is also the haunting question of whether time will one day end. If it had a birth, might it not also have a death? Cosmologists wonder whether the universe will continue to expand forever, cooling into stillness, or whether it will collapse back into a singularity. If collapse comes, would time fold with it, closing its pages, ending the story? Or would a new cycle begin, time reborn again, another river carving its way forward? Some suggest even more, that time never truly ends, but changes its shape, turning in directions we cannot imagine. Perhaps the arrow of time, which points us from birth to death, from dawn to dusk, may one day bend or break, revealing pathways backward, sideways, or beyond. For now, the arrow feels firm, but the whispers of physics tell us it may not always be so. And still, as we linger on these possibilities, we return to the human heart of the question. We experience time through memory and through hope. A child remembers a story told last night and hopes for one more tonight. The earth remembers the warmth of summer and hopes for its return after winter. Our very sense of self is a thread woven from yesterday into tomorrow. To imagine a universe without time is to imagine ourselves without memory, without hope, without story. It feels unthinkable, and yet it is the truth of the cosmos that before the Big Bang, such things did not exist. Out of silence came the thread that ties our days together. Out of stillness came the flow that carries us now. And perhaps that is the gentlest wonder of all, that time itself, the quiet river on which we drift, is a gift of the universe, one that began with its first breath. Now we move softly toward the close of this story, carrying with us the echoes of timelessness. To think of a universe without time is to step into a silence deeper than silence, a pause so complete it holds no memory of sound. We live by rhythms, the pulse of our blood, the rise and fall of the moon, the turn of seasons, yet the universe reminds us that those rhythms are not eternal. They are children of time, and time itself is a child of the cosmos. When the Big Bang unfolded, time uncoiled with space, a twin birth that gave rise to every change we now know. But what remains most moving is not the mathematics of it, nor the theories that try to describe it, but the humility it brings. We realize that the river we float upon, the very flow of seconds and minutes, is not a given, not absolute, but a gift as fragile as starlight. To close our eyes and imagine timelessness is to let go of all anchors. Without time, there is no waiting, no rushing, no growing old, no unfolding story. There is only being, complete and undivided. Perhaps this was the state of the cosmos before it stretched into motion, a stillness vast enough to cradle all possibilities. Some say that even now, beneath the flowing river, timelessness remains, like a deep current hidden beneath the surface. In meditation, in dreams, in moments of awe, we sometimes touch a sliver of it, the sense that past and future dissolve, and only a boundless present remains. That feeling may be the faintest echo of the universe's first silence, the hush before the unfolding of time. The arrow of time, pointing always forward, seems unbreakable to us. We cannot step back into yesterday, we cannot rush forward into tomorrow. And yet, in physics, the equations that describe the universe often do not care which way time flows. They work just as well in reverse as they do in forward motion. Why then do we feel time as a one-way journey? The answer lies in entropy, the spreading of energy, the drift from order to disorder. A shattered glass does not reassemble. A candle once burned cannot unburn. This direction, this arrow, is not a law of nature but a tendency, a leaning of the cosmos. If entropy shapes time's arrow, then it was the birth of entropy with the Big Bang that gave us our sense of before and after. Without that, the universe might be like a mirror with no reflection, existing all at once with no story to tell. And yet, what a story it has become. Out of the first breath of time came galaxies swirling in patient arcs, stars igniting and dying, planets circling in quiet harmony. Out of those vast cycles came oceans, forests, creatures, and finally, thought. Our very capacity to wonder about time is written into the unfolding of time itself. The universe gave birth to time, and time gave birth to us, and now we look back, gently, curiously, asking how it all began. There is a circle in this, a poetry beyond science. We are the universe remembering itself, the children of time wondering about the birth of their parent. So let us end with this reflection. Perhaps timelessness was not lost when the Big Bang began, but transformed. Perhaps it lingers, hidden in the spaces between moments, woven into the stillness that underlies every motion. When you sit in quiet, when you feel the weight of a pause, when you sense the boundless present stretching around you, you may be touching that ancient silence, the state of the cosmos before time was born. And in that moment, you may realize that you too are timeless, not only a traveler in the river of seconds, but also a spark of the eternal stillness beneath. Time may carry you forward, but eternity is already within you, a quiet reminder that before time and beyond it, there is always more. Before galaxies turned in spirals and stars set the heavens alight, before planets cooled and oceans gathered, there was a breath so small and yet so infinite that it holds the attention of both science and imagination. Physicists call it the quantum realm, a world beneath the world, where certainty dissolves and possibility reigns. To picture it, we must let go of the solidness we rely on, rocks that seem firm, days that feel steady, and instead imagine a field where particles flicker in and out, where position and motion are not fixed but blurred, where existence itself hums with uncertainty. It was within this strange haze, many believe, that our universe found its first stirring. The quantum breath before creation was not a sound, not a wind, not even a whisper, but a fluctuation, a trembling of nothingness that became something. Some scientists suggest that the very first moment of the cosmos was born from a quantum fluctuation, a restless shift in a vacuum that could never remain truly empty. Imagine a sea of nothing, and then imagine that nothing bubbling, rippling, jittering with possibility. In that bubbling, a spark appeared, a spark that expanded into everything we know. This is not a spark like a flame, but more like a note breaking through silence, a vibration that could not be contained. Quantum physics tells us that even when we strip matter away, when we remove every atom, every photon, every bit of substance, what remains is not stillness, but a foam of probabilities. Particles appear and vanish, waves rise and fall, as if the universe is never allowed to rest. If such a foam stretched across eternity, then perhaps our universe is one of its many blossoms, born in the restless exhale of the quantum breath. To imagine this breath is to imagine possibility itself. It did not come from time, because time was not yet flowing. It did not come from space, because space had not yet opened. Instead, it came from a deeper fabric, the quantum field, a canvas more fundamental than matter itself. This field, invisible yet powerful, is like a stage upon which particles dance, rising as waves, collapsing as sparks, moving not with certainty but with chance. And in one extraordinary chance, one fluctuation among endless fluctuations, the stage gave rise to our cosmos. Some describe it as spontaneous creation, though even the word spontaneous belongs to time, and time itself was not yet born. But in our language, it is the closest we can come, that the quantum breath was the trigger, the trembling that became the song of existence. Now imagine standing at the edge of that birth. There is no ground beneath your feet, no sky above your head, no clock on your wrist. All around you is a haze of flickering lights, appearing and vanishing, a sea of sparks without pattern. You feel both weightless and rooted, because gravity has no meaning here, nor does direction. Then, in one imperceptible shift, the sparks surge. One fluctuation grows instead of feeding on itself, expanding outward. It is the breath that becomes the universe, the inhale that carries galaxies, the exhale that shapes stars. In that instant, creation is not a thunderous shout, but a ripple, quiet and delicate, yet filled with infinite consequence. That is the poetry of the quantum world, that from something so small, so uncertain, can come the vastness of everything. Yet as we try to hold this thought, we feel how slippery it is. Quantum physics tells us that reality at its most fundamental level is not built on certainties, but on probabilities. An electron is not in one place until it is observed. A photon is both a particle and a wave until it interacts. This strange truth means that the cosmos itself may have risen not from a fixed cause, but from a cloud of maybes, a haze of perhaps. If that is so, then our universe is not inevitable. It is a possibility made real, chosen among countless others that flickered but never grew. To live within it is to live within a miracle of chance, a reminder that existence itself is fragile, rare, and yet overflowing with wonder. And so the quantum breath before creation remains one of the most haunting ideas we can touch. It is a breath we cannot hear, a spark we cannot see, but its echo lingers in every atom, every star, every thought. The uncertainty that gave birth to the cosmos still hums beneath us, still shapes the particles of our bodies, still flickers in the photons that fill our sky. We are not separate from it. We are its continuation, its unfolding, its voice. To breathe now, to inhale and exhale, is to echo that first trembling, that first fluctuation that became the universe. And in that gentle realization, we find ourselves part of the same song, a note within the cosmic breath that began it all. Let us wander further into this mysterious haze, where the ordinary laws we trust no longer hold, and the universe is not solid but shimmering with possibility. Quantum physics is a language of uncertainty, and yet in that uncertainty lies the seed of all that is certain to us now. To understand the breath before creation, we must imagine a world where particles are not like pebbles or stones, but like ripples on a pond, able to interfere, to merge, to vanish. Every particle is also a wave, every wave is also a particle, and the boundary between being and not being is softer than mist. In this strange place, probability replaces certainty, and the very idea of cause becomes blurred. Some physicists suggest that this is where our universe was born, not out of a plan, but out of chance, not from a design, but from the restless dance of possibility. Now consider the quantum vacuum, a name that sounds like emptiness but is anything but empty. Even when space seems bare, when no particles are present, the vacuum seethes with energy. Virtual particles spark into existence, only to disappear again in the blink of an eye. These are not fictions, but measurable effects, influencing the behavior of atoms, shaping the way forces act. If such activity is the background hum of reality, then the birth of the universe may have been one fluctuation that did not fade, one ripple that grew instead of vanishing. Imagine the sea of possibilities, each wave appearing and sinking back into stillness, until one wave crests higher and higher, becoming a tide, and that tide becomes the cosmos. In this image, creation is not the triumph of something over nothing, but the flowering of possibility itself. This idea finds support in the mathematics of quantum field theory, where fields pervade space, and particles are excitations of those fields. Electrons, quarks, photons, all the building blocks of matter are ripples in their respective fields. Long before matter formed, long before stars burned, those fields were present, humming quietly with potential. And if the cosmos itself is the ripple of such a field, then our existence is an echo of that first vibration. To think of it this way is to feel a softness, that the universe did not need to be forced into being, but simply emerged, like a note rising naturally in a song, like breath turning into sound. It suggests that the universe is not something foreign to us, but something we are woven into, a continuation of the same trembling. Some scientists extend this further, imagining that there may be countless universes, each born from its own fluctuation. In that endless sea, ours is one bubble among many, each with its own laws of physics, its own constants, its own unfolding. Perhaps there are universes where stars could never form, where gravity is too strong or too weak, where time flows differently or not at all. And perhaps only in rare bubbles like ours does life awaken, does curiosity stir, does thought rise to ask these questions. If so, then we live in a fortunate breath, a fluctuation that not only grew but grew in such a way as to allow eyes to see, ears to hear, hearts to wonder. To know this is to feel both small and immeasurably lucky, to see ourselves as improbable children of chance, carried by a wave that could so easily have been another. But others suggest that chance is not the full story. They point to the possibility that the laws of quantum physics themselves may be eternal, that fluctuation is not a temporary accident but a timeless truth. In this view, the universe was not born once, but is born always in every breath of the quantum field. Creation is not a singular event, but an ongoing rhythm, a symphony where notes rise and fall endlessly. What we call the Big Bang may be just one movement in an eternal song, one ripple among infinite ripples. And as we imagine this, we feel the edges of our comprehension bend. Eternity is not something we can measure, not something we can fully hold, but it lingers here in the whisper of fluctuations, in the hum of the vacuum, in the possibility that creation is never finished. Now imagine closing your eyes and listening, not with ears but with the quiet of your mind. Beneath the silence, you sense a trembling, soft as a breath, steady as a heartbeat, endless as the sea. That trembling is not foreign. It is the same that stirred the universe into being, the same that hums in every atom of your body. The particles that make you were born of that fluctuation, their dance choreographed by the same quantum rules that shaped the cosmos. You are not apart from it, you are one of its ripples, one of its waves, one of its breaths. To realize this is to see yourself differently, not as a visitor in the universe, but as a continuation of the same quantum breath that once, impossibly, became everything. Now we arrive at the quiet close of this story, standing in awe before the trembling breath that may have given rise to everything. The quantum realm, with its haze of uncertainty, is not just a puzzle for physicists, but a mirror of wonder for us all. To think that the universe could emerge not from a plan or a command, but from a fluctuation, soft, brief, perhaps inevitable, is to reimagine what creation means. It tells us that existence itself is fragile, yet enduring, improbable, yet vast. It suggests that what we see, the stars, the oceans, the trees, our own thoughts, are not separate from that first trembling, but continuations of it, notes carried forward in a melody without end. The breath before creation was not lost in the past. It echoes even now, woven into every atom, every spark of light. Quantum physics teaches us that reality is never entirely fixed. A particle can exist in two places at once, a wave can collapse into a point, and observation itself helps shape what becomes real. This strangeness is not just confined to laboratories, it is the foundation of our universe. The solidity of the ground beneath your feet, the warmth of sunlight, the rhythm of your heartbeat, all are possible because the quantum world allows them to be. And yet beneath their certainty, the uncertainty remains, humming softly, like the vibration of a string even after the note has been played. The universe rests on this balance, the dance between chance and pattern, between fluctuation and form. To live within it is to live within a mystery that can never be fully grasped, only felt with reverence. Some thinkers see in this an endless creativity. If the vacuum is always fluctuating, always birthing possibilities, then perhaps universes are always being born. Not just ours, but countless others, each with its own unfolding, its own story, its own breath. In that endless sea, our existence is both ordinary and extraordinary. Ordinary because we are one among infinite creations. Extraordinary because within this breath, consciousness emerged, and within consciousness, the ability to look back and wonder. It is as if the quantum breath did not merely give rise to matter and light, but also to questions, to curiosity, to reflection. The act of you asking what came before is itself part of the echo of that first trembling, the universe folding back to consider its own origin. And perhaps the most tender truth is this: we are not only the children of the Big Bang, but of the quantum breath that preceded it. The particles that make us were born from that fluctuation. The light in our skis is the continuation of that spark. The very thoughts we think are ripples of the same field that hummed before creation. To breathe now slowly is to echo the cosmos itself. Inhale, a reminder of the singularity's swelling. Exhale, a reflection of the universe's expansion. Breath by breath, moment by moment, we live within the rhythm of that first trembling, whether we know it or not. So as we let this story settle, imagine the universe not as a finished fact, but as a song still playing. Beneath the galaxies, beneath the atoms, beneath your own heartbeat, the quantum breath lingers. It is the hum behind silence, the shimmer beneath stillness, the quiet presence beneath all motion. And in that hum you may sense the gentle truth, that creation is not behind us, not something long past, but something ongoing, something alive in every instant. The breath before creation is also the breath within creation, and it carries you even now, softly, endlessly, into the unfolding of everything. Before numbers were carved into stone or whispered in soft classrooms, before anyone counted seasons or stars, there was the quiet idea of more space opening, more time flowing, more light lifting out of darkness. Infinity is that idea made wide, a horizon that keeps stepping back no matter how gently you walk toward it. To hold infinity in your mind is like holding a seashell and watching the spiral drift inward and outward at the same time, each turn echoing another turn, each curve promising another curve beyond it. We call this the spiral of nature, but it is also the spiral of thought, the shape the universe loves to write when it is relaxed and unhurried. Long before galaxies took their graceful forms, there were tiny differences curled into the newborn universe, soft wrinkles that would one day become the seeds of everything. Scientists call them fluctuations, little ups and downs in the first ocean of energy. Those little seeds, as small as imagination allows, were scattered everywhere, and because of them, gravity had a map to follow. Where a place was a little heavier, it pulled more strongly. Where it was a little lighter, it let go. And with patience, like dew collecting on grass, matter gathered into clouds, clouds folded into stars, stars spun into galaxies. If you could listen to the universe as a song, those early seeds were the first quiet notes, and all the music since then has been a gentle variation on their opening melody. To see proof of those first notes, we look at the sky with careful ears made of metal and math. We point radio eyes at the darkness and find a faint glow coming from every direction, light stretched thin by the long, slow breathing of expansion. It is the cosmic microwave background, a soft afterglow left from a time when the universe was hot and thick like warm fog. Hidden in that glow are tiny freckles, warmer spots and cooler spots no bigger than a sigh. Those freckles are the seeds written across the sky, the pattern of beginnings painted like pollen on the skin of space. From freckles to forests, the story is the same. Small differences grow into big shapes when you give them time. In a snowflake, one crystal tilt, one extra speck of dust, changes the whole starry pattern. In a tree, a bud leans a little toward light, and a branch learns a path the whole crown will later follow. In a coastline, the tide nibbles and pauses, and the edge becomes a lace that never quite ends. These are not accidents. They are the universe repeating its favorite theme, that simple rules nudged by tiny seeds can draw endless pictures. Infinity often looks like patience. It looks like waves folding into waves, dunes marching across a desert grain by grain, rings growing inside a cedar year by year. It looks like the way your breath keeps returning, in and out, like the sea that never forgets the shore even when it seems to leave. To speak of the seeds of infinity is to speak of every tender beginning that knows how to multiply itself without hurry. A fern fronds into more ferns, each smaller frond a copy of the whole, as if nature tucked a memory into each fingertip of green. A river splits and braids and splits again, carrying the map of mountains down to the plain, writing with water the same branching script trees write with wood and lungs write with air. If you trace these shapes with a calm finger, you will feel a rhythm, part, repeat, echo of echo until the edge of what you can see and then into what you can only feel. Mathematicians have a word for such echoes, fractals, shapes that hold themselves inside themselves. But you do not need the word to know the truth. You have seen it on a cauliflower, in a lightning bolt, along the ribs of a leaf. The world is full of small seeds that grow into repeating beauty, and the universe is one of them. Think now of numbers, Another field where infinity plants seeds and watches them bloom. Count by ones and you will never stop. Count by twos or fives or tens and still the road goes on. Between any two numbers, no matter how close, there are more numbers hiding, like raindrops between raindrops. It is a kindness of the world that we can never run out of steps to take on the path of counting. Within that endless garden of numbers, some flowers are simple and some are strange. Prime numbers are simple in the way mountains are simple. They stand by themselves, only divisible by one and by themselves, carrying a kind of quiet pride. They seem to scatter without pattern, yet there is a music in their spacing if you listen long enough, a slow drum you can almost hear. There are other endless families, the squares that grow like small fields tucked into larger fields, the triangles that add line to line and find new shapes in the adding. Each family whispers the same idea: more is always possible, and inside more lives more still. To help young minds see infinity, thinkers sometimes share a story about a hotel with rooms without end. Even when every room is full, the manager can make space for one more guest by asking everyone to shift one room up. It is a playful picture, a way to smile at a serious idea, that infinity is not a number but a way of being, a sky that expands as you look up. If numbers can be endless in this gentle, friendly way, perhaps space can be too. Some people imagine the universe as boundless, without edges to bump into, a firmness that curves back on itself so you could travel forever and never find a wall. Others imagine that even if space is not infinite now, it may expand without closing, growing like a child who never stops stretching. In the largest picture we can paint, infinity is the canvas that does not run out, letting galaxies keep their distance, letting new stars be born after old stars fade, letting time keep its slow, deep beat. And yet, infinity is also small. It hides in the first tiny seeds of contrast that shaped galaxies, in the fine ridges of a fingerprint, in the way a whisper can still be heard when the room goes quiet. When scientists study the early universe, they speak of inflation, a very rapid widening that took those tiny seeds and spread them across space, smoothing some parts and wrinkling others. It is as if a baker rolled a speckled dough very fast and very flat, and the speckles stretched into a soft, even pattern. Those speckles became the map of making, getting matter to gather here and there. Because the seeds were spread wide, the picture kept repeating on larger and larger scales. Clusters of galaxies curved into filaments, filaments wove into webs, webs wrapped the sky in a quiet net. Look out with a deep telescope and you will see that web, not with your eyes but with your understanding, a wide lace of light, delicate and strong, answering to the same gentle rule. Small differences, given time, shape everything. The seeds of infinity also live inside you. In the folds of your lungs, airways branch into smaller airways, and those into smaller still, each level touching the next in a soft rhythm that lets breath find every corner. In your brain, rivers of tiny electrical whispers branch and braid, spreading thought across a living map that rewrites itself as you learn. In your heart, waves of contraction travel in patterns within patterns, keeping reliable time for a lifetime without ever showing you the clock. If you could see your own body the way the universe sees itself, you might recognize the same script written in a closer hand: part, repeat, until the work is done. Infinity is not only outside in the sky, it is inside, in the ways life solves the puzzle of reaching many places gently. Stand for a moment in a forest and look up. Each branch splits where light offers a promise. Each twig splits where air suggests a landing. Each leaf folds its veins where water could wander. The tree carries inside it a simple rule: divide and spread, and that rule, applied again and again, draws a cathedral from plain wood. A fern does something similar, printing the whole onto the small, so that each leaflet is a cousin of the entire plant. The river valley does it too, and the lightning, and the delicate ice on a window. It is as if the universe teaches the same handwriting lesson to every student who sits in its classroom. Place a stroke, then repeat with care, place another, echo the first. This is how infinity hides in plain sight, not as a rush or a roar, but as patient echo. There is another way seeds grow into endlessness, through memory, not the memory of a person, but the memory of the world. Patterns that work tend to return. A seashell that resists breaking will be copied by 100,000 shells. A spiral that gathers light and spreads heat will be favored by winds and currents. A branch plan that delivers water while wasting little will be invited by tree after tree. These are the seeds of success, and the world plants them over and over. In time, they stretch across oceans and epochs until they feel timeless, as if they were always there. We call this evolution in living things and self-organization in clouds and crystals, but beneath the names is one soft law: what fits stays, and what stays repeats. Repetition is a bridge to infinity. And so, when you lift your eyes to the night and see stars scattered like salt, remember that their positions were once whispers in a glowing fog, and those whispers were shaped by seeds so small we could never touch them. The quiet freckles in the ancient light became the grand cities of the sky. When you touch the bark of a tree and feel the ridges under your palm, remember that the same logic guides its growth and the clustering of galaxies. When you trace the curve of a shell, remember that the curve also hides in hurricanes and galaxies, and the way leaves arrange themselves along a stem to share the sun. There is not one infinity, but many woven together. The never-ending count of numbers, the unbroken stretch of space, the repeating of patterns, the patience of time. Each infinity plants seeds in the others. Numbers carve spirals that real shells can copy. Space allows patterns to breathe and spread. Time lets them try again and again until they are steady. And the smallest seeds, those early freckles of warm and cool, still hum in the background, the way a song left playing in another room hums through a wall. If you are very quiet, you can almost hear it, the soft hiss of ancient light, the gentle static of the beginning, telling you that everything large was once small, and everything endless began with a seed. Let us rest inside that thought. Infinity can feel heavy when we race after it, but it grows light when we let it come to us in simple ways. It is the steam that curls the same way every time you boil water. It is the way evening returns with the same slow colors even if you do not watch the sun. It is the gentle truth that your breath will follow your breath, your blink will follow your blink, your heart will find its next beat. The seeds of infinity are inside these quiet loops that hold your days. Every loop is an open door that says there is more. More stars yet to form in cool nurseries, more trees yet to write green lines in the air, more minds yet to wonder at the soft rules hiding in plain sight. And while you think of this, you may feel a kind of ease, as if infinite does not mean far but near, not loud but hushed, not wild but patient. The universe does not force its endlessness upon you. It shows you a fern and a shell and a sky and asks you to notice the echo. These are the seeds, and they are enough for now. Let them rest inside you like small lanterns. They will keep lighting paths as you walk, even if you forget they are there. And when night comes and you look up, you might sense how the whole wide scene, stars, dark, quiet, grew from freckles smaller than dust, following rules so gentle they could be mistaken for lullabies. In that sense, infinity is not a riddle to solve, but a comfort to hold. That there is room enough for everything to unfold, that small beginnings can become vast beauty, and that the sky you love is still growing with a patience as calm as sleep. Now let us wander further into this quiet garden where infinity grows, following the paths of its seeds as they sprout across nature, numbers, and thought. Infinity is not only the endlessness of counting or the boundlessness of space, it is also the persistence of patterns that repeat and repeat, whispering the same truth in different languages. One of the most delicate examples of this is the spiral, a shape that carries infinity in its turning. From the swirl of galaxies to the curl of a seashell, from the twist of hurricanes to the unfurling of fern fronds, the spiral is the handwriting of infinity upon the world. It begins small, always small, and then with each turn it grows, keeping its proportion, never rushing, never ending. Scientists call it the golden spiral, a pattern shaped by a simple ratio, but the name is less important than the feeling it brings. That infinity can be held in the curve of a single shell, and that the same curve can stretch across 100,000 light years of stars. Consider also the branching of rivers. A single stream trickles down from a mountain, splits into two, then four, then many, carving veins into the land. Each branch is smaller than the last, yet each carries the same rhythm of dividing and flowing. If you look at a river delta from above, you will see the same script that trees use when they split their trunks into branches, or that your lungs use to carry air from a single windpipe into millions of tiny sacs. The pattern repeats across scales, across forms, across functions. This is infinity written in utility, not decoration, a proof that the seeds of endlessness are also seeds of survival. What works well enough to thrive is copied, and what is copied echoes without end. Infinity, in this way, is not distant but practical, woven into the very act of living. Now think of light. It travels outward in waves, crest after crest, trough after trough, carrying energy across emptiness without tiring. The wave is another face of infinity. It repeats endlessly, rhythm without conclusion. In physics, we describe light as both wave and particle, flickering between certainty and possibility. Yet when we look at sunlight dancing on water or moonlight rippling across a quiet lake, we see only the softness of repetition. The seeds of infinity in light are found in its refusal to stop. No matter how far it goes, it keeps its rhythm, weaving space with its endless song. And if the universe keeps expanding, that song will travel forever, carried on the breath of infinity, without ever reaching silence. Mathematics, too, carries these seeds. The number pi, that quiet ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, stretches into decimals without end. We can write 3.14159 and then add more digits and more, and still there will be more waiting. Inside its infinite string are patterns that seem to emerge only to vanish, replaced by others. To look into pi is to look into a forest of numbers where no path ever ends, where each turn reveals another turn. The same is true of the Fibonacci sequence, where each number is the sum of the two before it. This simple rule gives rise to spirals, flowers, pinecones, galaxies. Infinity hides in rules so simple they can be taught to a child, and yet from those rules, the universe grows entire forests of beauty. What begins as a seed of arithmetic becomes a bloom of endless design. Infinity also reveals itself in time. The days follow one another with a rhythm so steady we forget it is remarkable. Sunrise follows sunset and then returns, as if promising us that the sequence will not fail. Seasons spin in cycles, spring into summer, summer into autumn, autumn into winter, and then back again. Within each cycle is another, the migration of birds, the blooming of flowers, the rising of constellations in the sky. Each return is not identical. It carries subtle change, the mark of growth, the memory of what has passed, but the cycle itself is endless. To watch time in this way is to see infinity not as a line stretching into the distance, but as a circle repeating gently, like a lullaby that loops without losing its calm. Yet even as cycles comfort us, infinity stretches in another direction, into the unknown future. Stars will burn for billions of years, their light crossing the dark, and when those stars fade, new ones will rise from their ashes. Galaxies will drift apart, slow as sighs, until the night sky is redrawn. Time itself may continue beyond all reckoning, carrying the seeds of infinity forward even when no eyes remain to see them. And still, even in such vast thought, the seeds begin small. A fluctuation in the early universe, a ripple in a pond, a bud on a branch. Infinity does not arrive fully formed. It arrives in whispers, in freckles, in echoes that multiply until they cover the canvas of existence. As you breathe, notice that your breath itself is infinite in its rhythm. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The act repeats without end until your body rests. And though your own breath will one day quiet, the rhythm of breath is passed to others, to children, to forests, to oceans that inhale and exhale the tides. The cycle of breathing is a seed of infinity, carried not in one body but in life itself. The same is true of thought. Questions beget more questions, each answer planting another seed. To ask what came before is to join infinity's unfolding, to continue a chain that will never end. The seeds of infinity live in curiosity itself, in the endless reaching of the human mind, in the way wonder never seems to exhaust itself, no matter how much it discovers. So let us pause here, in the middle of infinity's garden, and feel how these seeds surround us. They are not only in distant galaxies or endless numbers, but in rivers, branches, shells, breaths, and thoughts. They remind us that the universe is not stingy, it is abundant, repeating, generous with its echoes. To see infinity is not to be overwhelmed, but to be comforted, to know that the patterns we cherish will return, that the rhythms we trust will continue, that the seeds planted long ago are still growing, quietly, endlessly, all around us. Now we move gently toward the close of this story, where the seeds of infinity meet the quiet needs of a human heart. We have walked among spirals and branches, watched waves repeat, traced numbers that never end, and listened to the soft afterglow that still warms the sky. The lesson that returns is simple and kind. Everything large began as something small, and what is small can keep unfolding without hurry. Infinity is not a loud trumpet. It is a lullaby that does not run out of verses. It is the way a shoreline keeps its lace, no matter how close you lean, the way a fern repeats its frond in smaller fronds, the way a shell continues its curve as far as time will let it grow. When you hold these patterns in your mind, the night does not feel cold or empty. It feels patient. It feels like a promise kept again and again. Think of the night again, not as a flat sheet of stars, but as a living web, a lace spread across a room the size of forever. Where the lace is thick, galaxies gather. Where it is thin, space opens like quiet fields. This grand pattern was drawn by early whispers, freckles in the first light that became roads of gravity. Over time, the web deepened. Galaxies fell toward one another to make clusters. Clusters reached for other clusters to make filaments, and filaments braided into a cosmic net. From far away, the net looks even, but as you come closer, the threads show knots and crossings, little places where the past gathered itself and rested. The drawing is the same on many scales, A repeat, not exact, but faithful. It is the world telling one story in many voices. Now bring your gaze down to something close, like a seashell sleeping on a beach. Follow the spiral with your finger. It begins at a tight little curl where the animal once began to grow, then widens round by round, keeping the same shape even as size increases. If the shell had time, it would keep going. The promise of the next turn is already inside the curve you can see. A pinecone stacks its seeds along twin spirals, one left, one right, each turn opening room for the next so light can find every cradle. A sunflower does this in a circle, packing seeds in counts that follow a gentle rule, so each one has space to rest, and the whole can hold as many as the face will bear. These are not decorations. They are solutions learned by long patience, ways to fit more life into a given space by repeating a good idea. Numbers echo the same trust. Between 1 and 2 live uncountable others. Between those, more still. No matter how close you press two numbers together, there are more between them, like the way air still moves between two hands held almost, but not quite, touching. This is not a trick. It is a basic kindness of mathematics that keeps doors open. It tells us that change can be as small as it needs to be, that steps can be made gentle. That is how curves are drawn smoothly, how sounds can slide from low to high without snapping, how light can fade in a way that pleases the eye. Infinity in numbers makes room for soft transitions everywhere else, so motion can happen without breaking. Yet infinity is also held by limits. A tree cannot grow into the sky without end. It stops where wind, water, and wood find a fair balance. A coastline cannot crinkle forever in real sand. At the size of a single grain, the lace becomes rock and salt and shell. Even the cosmic web has a scale where its threads thin and quiet as expansion stretches space. These limits do not defeat infinity, they shape it into forms we can live with. Like the frame of a doorway, they give structure to a passage that could otherwise be too wide to walk through. The seed repeats, the pattern grows, and the world chooses a size that fits what it is doing. In this way, infinity and limit are partners. One offers abundance, the other offers form. Consider time one last time, but from a softer angle. You wake, you move, you eat, you work, you speak, you love, and later you sleep. Tomorrow, the pattern repeats with small changes that make it yours. In that repeating, life gathers meaning. If every day were truly new with no echo of the last, your mind would have no place to rest. If every day were exactly the same, your spirit would grow thin. Meaning blooms in the middle, where the seed of infinity, repeat, meets the seed of change new. This is how lessons become wisdom, how practice becomes skill, how kindness becomes character. The loop returns, but it returns carrying something learned. There is a quiet comfort in knowing that the universe is patient. The first atoms took hundreds of thousands of years to settle. The first stars took millions of years to gather and ignite. Galaxies needed billions of years to weave their spirals and bars, and yet the seeds that shaped them were small. You can hold this comfort when your own work feels slow. Each simple, repeated step can be a seed. A page read to a child each night plants a forest of language. A short walk each dawn writes health into bone and blood. A cup of water offered each day grows a garden of trust. The scale is different, but the law is the same. Small faithful acts, given time, draw wide patterns. The science of chaos adds one more soft thread to this weave. It teaches that in many systems, small nudges can grow into large outcomes. A tiny shift in a cloud's birth can change a storm's path days later. A minute change in a planet's pull can alter the dance of a whole system over ages. This is not a license to fear small things. It is an invitation to care for them, because the seeds matter, tending them matters. The temperature of a room, the first word you choose, the way a classroom begins its day, each is a seed for the hours that follow. When the first notes are calm, the song has somewhere gentle to go. Even our errors find their place in this garden. Fractures in rock become the first lines along which crystals grow. A burned field, given rain and seasons, invites grasses, then flowers, then saplings, then a forest that remembers how to shade the soil. In your own days, a pause after a hard word, a quiet apology, repeated gently, can break a loop that was growing in a harmful way and plant another that is kinder. Infinity does not mean the same thing must continue forever. It means there is always room to begin again, to let a better repeat replace a worse one, to let time carry a new rhythm. Return now to the earliest light that still reaches us, a thin radio glow stretched smooth by time. Inside that glow are faint differences in temperature, as tiny as a breath on glass. Those differences were the seeds. They grew into clouds, into stars, into galaxies, into the web we see now. Their growth was guided by gravity, which itself is a kind of patience, matter pulling on matter, more firmly where more has already gathered, softer where less has. Gravity is a listener. It hears the small differences and answers by gathering, not all at once, but slowly, letting the smallest tilt become a direction, and the direction become a form. At the other end of scale lies the small dance inside atoms. There too are seeds that repeat. Electrons find stable patterns around a nucleus, not by circling like planets as once imagined, but by forming clouds shaped by simple rules. Those rules, repeated across countless atoms, build the periodic table, a map of all the possible kinds of matter. From that map, chemistry writes sentences, and from those sentences, life writes stories. The tiny repeats lead to large variety. It is as if the universe provides a small alphabet and says, "Make as many words as you wish," and then watches patiently as oceans, mountains, trees, and mines sound out their lines. We often ask if infinity makes us small. The night is so large, our lives are so brief, but the seeds of infinity say the opposite. They tell us that scale connects rather than separates. The spiral that fits in your palm is cousin to the spiral that holds a galaxy. The branching in your lungs echoes the branching of rivers and trees. The rhythm of your heart speaks to the rhythm of waves and seasons. You are written in the same script as the world. This kinship does not make you less, it makes you at home. To feel it is to breathe easier, to stand under the sky and recognize a family resemblance. There is a quiet practice that grows from this feeling. It is the practice of choosing a small, good seed and placing it where it will be useful, then returning to it kindly again and again. When you design a path through a garden, you choose one curve and repeat its softness so feet will learn it. When you teach, you choose one clear phrase and thread it through your lesson until it catches on the tongue. When you lead, you choose one fair habit and keep it steady so others can trust the rhythm. This is the craft of a life that respects infinity, not to chase greatness in a single leap, but to shape it from repeats that fit in a day. The world itself keeps a notebook of such crafts. Bees repeat their dances to share the way to flowers. Tides repeat their rise and fall to clean the shores. Planets repeat their orbits to keep the seasons true. In each case, the repeat is not empty. It carries work. It carries signal. It carries care. We can borrow that wisdom. We can let a morning walk be a tide for the mind, washing the day clean. We can let a gentle greeting be a planet's orbit for a home, keeping the weather of a room in balance. We can let a nightly story be a bee's dance, pointing young eyes towards sweet fields of thought. As we close, hold two pictures at once. In one, the early universe is a warm fog with faint freckles of difference speckled across it. In the other, your own hand rests on a blank page. You draw a small curve and repeat it, letting the shape grow. The first picture and the second are linked by a quiet rule. Small beginnings, repeated with care, become wide beauty. The freckles became galaxies. Your curve becomes a leaf, a shell, a shoreline, a song. If you stop, the shape waits. If you return, it remembers where to go. Let this promise settle in you. When the night feels too large, remember that largeness was made by repeats that you also carry. When a task feels too great, remember that greatness is just a chain of small links done in order. When a day feels thin, remember that meaning grows where a kind loop is kept. The universe has shown us its method. We can trust it. Plant a little light. Return tomorrow. Plant a little more. In time, patterns will rise, and what was once empty will hold a shape you cherish. Think also of endings, since the mind always asks, will the repeats go on forever? Stars will fade, galaxies will drift, the web will thin, and yet even when one pattern closes, another opens at a different scale or in a different place. Seeds wait in soil through winter. Light travels on after a star has gone still, and its warmth lands on a face and becomes a thought, and the thought becomes a word, and the word becomes a deed. Infinity does not need everything to last. It needs only for something to hand its shape to what comes next. And if you need one last image for your rest, picture the ancient light still drifting through space, the gentle hiss that radios can hear when tuned between stations. Within that hiss is the memory of freckles. Within those freckles is the plan for webs. Within the webs are the homes of stars. Within stars are the seeds of life. Within your breath is the echo of all of it, repeating, 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 until even the idea of an end grows shy and steps aside. In that echo, you are held. In that echo, the seeds of infinity keep their promise, and the night is a cradle that does not run out of room. Before the first stars pierced the sky, before galaxies wound themselves into luminous spirals, there was a time when the universe knew only darkness. It was not darkness as we understand it, not the shadow cast by sunlight hiding behind a mountain or the midnight hour when lamps have burned low. It was deeper, quieter, more absolute. This was the world without light, a time when matter floated free as atoms in a fog, when photons, the tiny messengers of illumination, were trapped, unable to travel. The universe was dense and hot, a glowing plasma where particles collided constantly, scattering light so quickly it could never move far. If you had floated in that world, you would not have seen anything at all, for seeing requires light's freedom, and freedom had not yet arrived. As the universe expanded, it cooled, and with cooling came change. Electrons paired with protons to form atoms of hydrogen and helium, the first building blocks of all matter. Suddenly, the fog thinned. Light was released, streaming outward in every direction, a flood that has never stopped. That moment is called recombination, and the first light that emerged from it still drifts across space today, stretched and softened into the cosmic microwave background. It is faint now, almost invisible, but it carries the memory of a time when the cosmos took its first breath of clarity. Before that release, however, there was only a world without light, a silent prelude in which everything we know was already waiting, hidden in shadow. To imagine such a time is to step into a strange stillness. No sunrise, no starlight, no glow of fire or moon, only the slow cooling of a hot mist that had yet to learn how to shine. Yet within that darkness lay the seeds of illumination. Tiny ripples in the density of matter meant that some regions of the fog were slightly heavier, others slightly lighter. Gravity listened to those ripples, and where matter was a little heavier, it pulled more strongly, gathering clouds together. Those clouds would one day ignite as stars, and stars would gather into galaxies, but all of that was hidden in the silence of a lightless sky. It was as though the universe was whispering a promise, holding the lamp in its hands, but waiting for the right moment to let it burn. Even in our own lives, we can feel the echo of this stage. There are times when light seems absent, when clarity hides, when we move through fog not of plasma but of uncertainty. Yet just as in the cosmos, those moments hold seeds. Hidden within difficulty are the first patterns of growth, waiting to become visible. Darkness does not mean nothing is happening. It means the stage is being set. For hundreds of thousands of years, the universe moved through such preparation, cooling quietly, gathering silently, and then suddenly illumination bloomed. This rhythm of darkness holding the shape of light to come is one the cosmos repeats in many ways. Stars collapse into blackness before exploding into brilliance. Seeds lie buried in soil before pushing green leaves into the air. Dreams rest in sleep before waking into vision. The pattern is always the same: silence first, then song. Scientists sometimes call that early darkness the cosmic dark ages. It is an austere name for a tender truth. During that time, there were no stars to warm planets, no galaxies to curve across the sky, no fireflies of light at all. And yet to call it empty would be wrong. It was full of atoms drifting, full of potential gathering, full of the quiet energy that would one day ignite. In its stillness, it carried the hum of the future. We know this not only through imagination, but through observation. By studying faint signals of ancient hydrogen, astronomers can trace the outlines of that dark era, mapping the fog that filled the sky before light arrived. These studies remind us that darkness is not void. It is a chapter of becoming, a hidden page in the story of illumination. Imagine standing in that universe. Around you stretches a silence so vast you feel it in your bones. There is no color, no sparkle, no glow. Only the faintest heat brushes your skin, the remnants of the Big Bang still fading. The air, if one could call it air, is thick with hydrogen atoms, drifting like dust motes in a room with no lamp. You wait, not knowing what you are waiting for, only sensing that the hush will not last forever. Then in time, gravity's patience works its quiet craft. Clouds fold inward, pressure builds, and in one hidden corner a star is born. Its light pushes back the darkness, not all at once but gently, like dawn seeping into night. Soon another follows, and another, until the first galaxies gather like lanterns along an endless path. The world without light becomes the world of stars, and from then on, the universe will never again be truly dark. In reflecting on this, we understand that light is precious precisely because it was not always here. It is a gift born out of waiting, a flame kindled after silence. The echo of that gift lives in us as well. When we strike a match in a quiet room, when we light a candle in a night storm, when the sun edges over the horizon after a long winter's night, we are reenacting that first cosmic illumination. We are remembering, without knowing it, the transformation that turned the universe from shadow into brightness. The world without light may be gone, but its echo lingers in every flame, every star, every gentle glow we welcome in the dark. Let us move deeper into that long night, when the universe was wide yet sightless, when the fog of atoms filled everything and photons could not travel freely. This period lasted for hundreds of millions of years, And in that span, the first great structures of matter were forming quietly, hidden behind a curtain of darkness. The atoms drifting in that fog were mostly hydrogen and helium, simple elements born in the furnace of the Big Bang. They moved through space like dust through air, invisible without light, yet they were not aimless. Gravity pulled gently on them, gathering some regions closer, thinning others farther apart. It was an unseen choreography, a slow and patient arrangement that would one day become galaxies. The stage was dark, but the actors were already in place. This was a time of subtle seeds, the tiny variations in density, those freckles of difference that inflation spread across the early universe, grew slowly under gravity's hand. Where matter was slightly thicker, it grew thicker still, drawing in more atoms. Where it was thinner, atoms drifted away. Out of this gentle unevenness, clouds began to form. They were vast, larger than any galaxy we see today, but diffuse and invisible, mere whispers of structure in a silent sea. For ages they floated, cooling and contracting. And then, deep within their folds, something extraordinary began. The first stars flickered to life. They were not like the stars we see now. These were giants, massive and short-lived, burning bright and fast, pouring their light into the darkness. Their births marked the end of the cosmic dark ages. Their light reionized the hydrogen fog, tearing the curtain apart, letting photons travel freely. And with that, the universe stepped from shadow into dawn. Imagine how it must have looked. A universe that had known only silence suddenly speckled with fire. The first stars were so luminous that their radiation changed the chemistry of the cosmos, shaping the elements that would one day form planets and people. Yet they lived briefly, collapsing after only a few million years. In their deaths, they scattered heavier elements, carbon, oxygen, iron, seeding the cosmos with the ingredients for life. From that cycle of birth and death, light spread further, galaxies took shape, and the universe entered an age of illumination. The echoes of that transition still reach us. Astronomers using telescopes that peer into ancient time catch glimpses of faint galaxies from those first dawns, their light stretched and reddened by expansion, carrying messages from a world just learning to shine. But there is a deeper echo, not only in the sky but in ourselves. We too know what it means to live through dark ages, times when light feels absent and direction unclear. We too carry within us the rhythm of waiting and the promise of illumination. Just as the universe cooled until atoms could settle, we must sometimes cool our racing thoughts until clarity forms. Just as gravity gathered atoms into stars, we must gather scattered pieces of experience until they ignite into understanding. The metaphor is not accidental. We are part of the same story, written with the same ink of physics and patience. The world without light is not only a cosmic memory, but a human truth. That darkness precedes brilliance, that waiting holds meaning, that silence can be the soil of growth. Consider the way forests begin after fire. For a time, the ground looks ruined, black and bare. Yet in that stillness, seeds wait. Rain falls, roots press into ash, green shoots return. Soon the forest is alive again, richer for the pause. The early universe followed the same path. The long darkness was not a mistake, but a necessary season. Without it, matter would not have cooled, atoms would not have formed, stars would not have kindled. The silence prepared the song, the night prepared the dawn. This rhythm, visible in stars and forests alike, teaches us to trust the waiting, to see darkness not as emptiness, but as hidden preparation. Science confirms this with its own delicate instruments. By studying the faint absorption lines of ancient hydrogen, researchers can map when the dark ages gave way to light. They find evidence of those first stars and galaxies, glowing like lanterns along an infinite path. Each discovery confirms the poetry that even in a universe without light, the seeds of brightness were already planted. And so, as we reflect on those echoes, we see ourselves reflected too. Our own lives are threaded with shadows and dawns, with quiet years that later give way to radiance. In that recognition lies comfort. The universe tells us, softly but clearly, that light is always preceded by stillness, that brilliance is always born from silence, that even the darkest age carries within it the promise of stars. Now we drift into the final reflections of this tale, carrying with us the silence of a universe before stars and the gentle arrival of their glow. The cosmic dark ages, though vast and long, were not wasted time. They were a pause in which matter arranged itself, preparing for the fire of creation. In that pause lies a lesson we can hold close. Light is sweetest when it follows shadow, and shadow is deepest when it waits for light. The world without light was not empty, it was expectant, like a deep breath held before a song. When the first stars bloomed, they carried within them the memory of that breath. And when we see their ancient light across the sky today, we are looking not only at brilliance, but at the echo of stillness that gave it form. Those first stars, immense and short-lived, became the lighthouses of the universe. Their radiation split the hydrogen fog, their gravity gathered galaxies, their death scattered the elements that would later form oceans, mountains, and the living dust of our own bones. From their silence into song, we inherit everything we know. And yet, behind them still lingers the memory of darkness, as if the cosmos never forgets the soil from which it grew. We feel it when we step into a night far from cities, when the stars are so many that the sky seems alive. Between their lights is still a velvet blackness, vast and patient, a reminder that before light, darkness was the first companion of existence. To look into that black is not to see emptiness, but to see the canvas on which light paints its story. Even now, the echoes of that lightless time flow around us. The cosmic microwave background hums faintly in every direction, a soft static of the past. Radio telescopes trace the whispers of ancient hydrogen, mapping the fog that once filled the universe. The silence has become song, the dark has become data, yet the wonder remains. Science does not erase the poetry, it deepens it. Each measurement tells us again that even in darkness, the universe was alive with potential. Each discovery confirms that waiting is not wasting, that stillness is not absence, that even silence can be fertile. In our own lives, we echo this cosmic rhythm. We move through seasons where clarity is hidden, where light seems far. We wait, unsure if dawn will come, and then suddenly or slowly it arrives. Understanding ignites, growth appears, hope returns. These moments are our own recombination, our own end of the dark ages. And when they come, we are stronger for the waiting, richer for the pause, gentler for the silence we have endured. The cosmos shows us that darkness is never the final word. It is the beginning of light's sentence, the pause before its phrase, the silence before its song. So let us rest with this final image. Imagine the universe as it was, a vast sea of hydrogen, no stars, no galaxies, only a patient fog. Then imagine a single star flickering on, its light piercing the black, carrying across distances no eye had yet been born to see. That single star was enough to change everything. Soon others followed, and darkness surrendered to dawn. In the same way, a single kindness, a single thought, a single breath of courage can pierce our own shadows, carrying across lives and years. We too are lanterns in the dark, echoes of the first light born from silence. The world without light is not gone. It is folded into every sunrise, every candle, every star. And as we look upward, into the quiet sky, we can still feel its embrace, the gentle truth that darkness and light are never enemies but partners, each carrying the echo of the other, each reminding us that beginnings are always hidden in silence first.